Okay.
Okay, yes, we're live. Hey, welcome to How to Build Your Own Home. Every Thursday from 5 to 6 p.m. Mountain Standard Time. Those that are chiming in, we welcome everybody. We'll be taking some questions here today. And I do have a couple of questions that have come in through email, so I will be going over those. I just got back from a trip from Mexico, and I wanted to talk about building technologies in Mexico, which were kind of interesting. They have two building technologies, or two materials they use. That's it. And it's concrete and rebar. Pretty much no windows. All right, this is the southern part of Mexico, down near Oaxaca, and well, way down on the southern part of, very southern part of Mexico. And that's how they live. It's moderate temperatures. It's kind of hot during the summer and muggy. They don't really have a winter at all. We were down there in the winter, and it was like a nice balmy San Diego during July. Yeah, it was really, really nice. But I realized it was kind of interesting. I was looking at the building technologies down there, and it's really nothing more but concrete rebar because they can't use wood, even though they have forests down there in southern Mexico, throughout most of Mexico. That wood would rot. It wouldn't survive. Constant humid temperatures penetrating the wood, termites, etc. You've got a problem. So in every home, they would basically build a home. And this is something interesting to think about with regard to building a home of your own, is that they would pour a slab of concrete, and it would come up on various pillars for a second floor. And those pillars would come up with rebar and would support basically a second floor. But the rebar would come all the way up through that second floor, and it would just dangle in the air. And so what you saw is the potential for temporary housing down the road in the event that they want to grow to another floor after that. So everywhere you went in southern Mexico, you would see rebar sticking out of the roof of the home. Oh, that's potential. That's something else to go. And so I thought that was interesting, building modularly like they were doing that in Mexico to accommodate any future growth. And I'm the guy that, why don't you just cut that rebar, make it clean and all that? But they don't. They leave that rebar there in case they want to form another cylinder, pour concrete in it, and go vertically for the next floor up. But they use a lot of rebar in that floor, and it's a very solid building product, building technology that they use there in Mexico. So I was kind of impressed with it. If you have never been down to Mexico, it's something that I would consider you doing.
And another thing that was interesting that we learned, that they have some of the best waves, and they have a competition for surfing, and they don't allow more than 2 stories in building because it will affect the wind and the waves and everything. And I thought that was fascinating.
Yeah, they kind of keep your elevation height to a minimum down there, especially along the coastal regions. So I thought that was interesting. Let's start with a question, and if we have some others chime in, that's great. This is from Alan, and he writes, I've completed both courses. Thanks for all the great information. Have purchased land this summer. Plans are with the draft person currently. And then they go into the question. Radon is second leading cause of lung cancer in our area, eastern Minnesota, western Wisconsin. I can't find much information in the coursework on the videos about radon mitigation. My design has a slab on grade. Please comment. So slab on grade radon, that could be an issue, and here's a couple of areas why. Now, I don't like to use polyurethane or polyethylene or any kind of poly coating or any kind of plastic barrier underneath my slab, unless I'm using maybe a radon mitigation technique, which I can go into just a little bit. But the reason why I don't is because water will puddle at the bottom of that when the concrete's poured, and it will sometimes can cause some spalling. If it's freezing at night, you want that water to kind of evaporate out and pull out of the concrete, so it cures evenly throughout the entire slab. If you have water at the bottom, it's not going to cure evenly throughout the entire slab, and you're going to have some problems. I could go into some science on that and whatnot, but just keep in mind that when you have that plastic coating under the slab and you pour the concrete on it, it's going to cause that slab to cure unevenly throughout the entire body. So with that said, the problem is that those plastic actually is very good for radon mitigation. So imagine underneath your slab, you've got that piece of plastic there, and the radon comes up on it and it stops. It really can't go any further because, as you know, concrete's somewhat porous, and when there's cracks and whatnot in the foundation, that radon can actually find its way up. So how do you really, what's the best solution? Using some plastic and then having a problem with slab not curing properly, or not even dealing with the plastic at all. So my approach is to not deal with the plastic because I'm not a fan of that, to be honest with you. Hasn't proven to be valuable to me, and it's kind of a cost that you really don't need in your home unless you have water seepage, low, very, very low water table. And if you've got water constantly penetrating the concrete, it's going to be porous. It's going to work its way into the home. That's the only way or only place I use plastic to help with the slab, keeping water away from the slab. So with radon, I just take a perforated pipe, and they have those pipes that are about that big, and there's a lot of foam inside them. You can bury that in the ground about maybe 6 inches or so or less below the dirt, or in this case, below what I would call the aggregate, gravel, road base, whatever you want to call, just before you pour the concrete, that part there. And you put it in the middle somewhere, and you can either vent that directly up through a chimney, which is my ideal. Anytime you can use the chase of a chimney somewhere up through the home, that acts as a great ventilation all the way up, straight up through the roof and into the chimney or out somewhere. But the more vertically you can take that, the better. That way, all that radon gas is held inside a PVC pipe, and it's going and it's being extracted up through the home without being affected inside the conditioned space of the home. So that's basically one of the best ways to deal with radon gas, is to do it that way. I've done that with a lot of mountain homes, a lot of places in Colorado, Boulder, Colorado. They have radon issues, and you want to research with a geotech engineer. They can kind of test that to find out if it's an issue. And to be honest with you, about just about every home that might even have a subtle issue with radon should do that, especially if you're built on a dump, and there could be some gases there. If you're built on a dump, you want to ventilate those gases out some way, somehow. So I hope that answers your question with regard to radon gas. It can be an issue if you're not careful with that. Okay, I thought I had another question here. I don't think I had one here. Don't see that one. I had that one there. It was there, but I answered that question. I answered that one on live chat prior about 2 weeks ago. Anyway, does my wife have any thoughts, questions on real estate at this point in time with regard to buying home sites? What does the market look like in the future?
I just know for our area, land is the hardest thing to get right now. And it's a high price. Just do your due diligence when you are looking at land. We offer a free checklist at howtobuildyourownhome.com. You can get a free checklist and go through that when you're looking for land to build on. I do know that there's land out there in other places that have better prices than we do here in Southern Utah. And we're just coming into our market. Spring is always our busiest time of the year for buying. And the interest rates, well, for home, land is a little different, and construction interest rates are a little different. But the getting land right now is good. So you can prepare the soil and get rid of trees and get things ready to build on. Hopefully you've been working on a design, and we'd love to see your designs and give you 2 cents if you want, on insights. The more eyes that can see things, the better. There was one when I was in high school, a friend, they were remodeling their home, and the architect and the engineer both missed putting in a bathroom in the primary bedroom suite. So it's always good to have more than one set of eyes on some plans to catch things.
Yeah, if anyone's interested, I can do a consult with anyone that's interested with regard to plans, and I can look at things. And one of the big things I look at is the mechanical movement and placement of mechanical inside the frame structure. And a lot of times this is done ad hoc and it's not planned for at all. And if you can have someone look at your plans, knowing what's going to take place, they can say, hey, can we accommodate for a couple of problems by doing this and that, a couple of small things. And then your HVAC contractor, your plumbing contractor, your electrical contractor, all of them have a good strategic course of action. But a lot of times, most of the time, homes are built with absolutely no consideration for how mechanical is going to fit inside the home, which is why you go to some old 1970s and 1980s homes. You walk down the hallway and the ceilings drop down to like 7.5 feet. There was no way to bring ventilation into the home properly. Just a lot of things that you see with homes because they didn't plan for it in advance. And as a result, you're stuck with something that's not very efficient. It's old, hard to service, hard to manage, hard to maintain. So your mechanical is really a big issue for me. And solving for that as early as you possibly can is key. Just go to howtobuildyourownhome.com and click on the free home site selection checklist. That is downloadable. It's very helpful. I've had a lot of people just rave about that home site selection checklist, and it really helps them go through that checklist before they buy some land. And if you go through that checklist, it's going to save you a headache. Trust me. And that checklist, I always update every once in a while. Oh, I should have added that. That comes to my mind. I add it to the checklist. Right now, it's only a single page long, but it'll always stay that way because I can't make checklists.
Right. It might be a 10 font, but it's on one page.
Yeah, it's on a small font, but it really does the trick for that. Okay.
I will give an example today. Like when you're building a house, there are just so many variables involved. You've got a draftsperson or an architect, then you have the engineer, and they really do try to figure it all out. But today, one of my owner builders came across an interesting situation. Their framer called them because the bathroom, there was attic trusses and the bathroom wasn't quite fitting. So he said that you probably won't be able to they had to swap the way the vanity was because of the door, the way it opened, and just the space. And he says, oh, you're not going to be able to have a mirror and stuff like that. And then we went back and looked at the plans, and they had a door with storage right next to it. So they're going to talk to the architect and the engineer and just swap them because the storage went back and then into a big kind of room. And then the bathroom was closer on this side. So I just said, why don't you just swap it instead of this being the storage area, have a smaller door to get into the storage area, and then you can have a regular bathroom that can have a mirror. Sometimes there's easy, simple fixes like that. They might have to move a little bit of the wall so the tub can fit and everything like that. But
okay,
that's better than having a small angled bathroom.
Let's take this question by Rennie. If you can put that up, I think it's made by them, Rennie. What are your thoughts when it comes to finding a lot where the seller is offering plans already that have been approved by the city, and along with the survey, it's a duplex plan over here in Houston?
Oh.
If they've already been approved, is he charging you additional money for those plans? I doubt that. He's just probably trying to liquidate the land. That alone could save you anywhere from $4,500 to $12,000 with them properly engineered. And you want to find out if they're properly engineered. If they're not engineered, they're just architectural plans, then you might need to get them engineered. So double check with that. And I know that Texas is really loose on building codes, inspections, and requirements for general contractors. So keep that in mind. And I think it's just a duplex. It's not a bad idea. I'm sure you probably got a deal on it. So
yeah, just make sure the plans are paid for and you don't have to pay for them. I had another client that plans came with the land, but then they had to pay $60,000 for the architectural plans. And we're like, no, thanks.
Yeah.
So just make sure they're paid for if you want to use them, if you like the design.
Yeah. When you go to purchase land, you want to talk with the title agent and ask them, can you check with the state construction registry, wherever it is in your state? And they will check that state construction registry, which is typically a vehicle that allows subcontractors like a draftsperson to retain their their lien rights, even though that they haven't taken that action to file a lien against the property with the county recorder's office. So even though everything looks good with the county recorder's office, it may not be good with the state registry. So I've dealt with issues where I've finalized on a loan with some clients, and they said, Keith, can you do a notice of completion with the state? And I said, sure, I do a notice of completion. And then that's now indicating that the job is completed, all debts are paid, and there's no lien rights that are being sought on that particular property. This is a little thing that people don't know about because it's not recorded with the county until they seek a redress for grievances or damages due to payments not being paid on a subcontractor. So always ask for the title agent to check that. And since you've got architectural plans done, who knows if they filed a notice of commencement, and who knows if they ever want to, go after payment if they have not been paid. So double check that. Really good question. Okay. I want to just talk a little bit about the market. It's really soft right now, especially for new construction. I mean, really, really soft. I'm getting a lot of calls, and I'm in a high build area, probably one of the highest build areas in the country. I can only imagine what it's like in areas where there's very, very little growth. And so you have an opportunity here. If you're an owner builder, your payments or your work are really steady, or if you own your own company and therefore you're wanting to build your own home, there's not been a better time to build a home with those factors in a very, very long time. However, if your income is not that great, it's not steady, you're not very feeling confident in your house or in your job, you might be, I could be let go or something like that, and you still want to move forward, I would move forward a little slowly and seek about securing land, especially if you are in the area you want to be in. If you feel like you're going to be somewhere else and you might look for a job somewhere else, and you might think that you're going to get pulled somewhere else, I wouldn't be buying anything here, anywhere where you are currently living. Only if you feel very, very confident where you are, then I would consider buying some land, at least getting that far. And why do I say that? Because when you buy land and you start to pay that off, you're actually building equity on a more affordable ratio. And once you get that land paid off, not only have you built up savings in the form of equity in land, you now have at the same time down payment ready for the purchase of a loan. And so you're actually moving toward that whole process anyway. And the neat thing is when you buy that land and secure that land, you can work incrementally on some house plans. That's hey, honey, let's take $3,000 and have our house plan done by this affordable draftsperson, or let's pay $7,000 done and have it done by this architect. Once that's done and your land is purchased and you have that done and it's plotted and designed for that land, the great thing is that's now again more equity in the entire process. Architectural, engineering, geotech, all these things are values that go into the actual cost of the home. And a lot of people don't realize that. It's almost probably better than having money in the bank, because this here, especially if you know you're going to build that home. And once you have all that done, which is a cost that goes into the purchase of a home anyway, you're actually building that value base for that land. All right, I've had many owner builders, probably a dozen or two that I know of, that went through the whole process, got the land, designed a home for the land, found out it was a little too costly or not quite what they thought. And they ended up selling the land with those designs, and they actually got fully recompensated. Plus, they made money on the land because it seemed to have some improvement in value from year to year. So even if you find that it's kind of hopeless or difficult, you can consider looking at getting some land. And that's, to me, that was launched. That's what launched us. Maybe my wife can talk about that and what I did and bought land, and I didn't ask her.
Yeah, we were both teachers, and he decided, well, we had helped so many family members remodel their home or build their homes that we finally like, why don't we do this for ourselves? And I was taking a bunch of students up north for an event. And I remember being on the bus and Keith calls me, I bought some land. I'm like, what? You bought land? Where? What? And then asking all the questions. But it was a good deal. He got a good deal and he got it subordinated. Not many people subordinate these days. So he did a good job.
Yeah. Yeah. It was fun. Lost some weight, worked long hours into the evening for
We did.
6 months or so, 5 or 6 months, and we built our own home. So it was a great experience to be able to do that. So Rennie, I just hope you consider that, and go at it, have some fun, especially if you buy some land that you feel like you can liquidate if you need to. But just look in the market and do that first steps course, and do module number 3. It's going to really help you out with that.
Well, another thing with Rennie's question is that it's a duplex. Like, that's even better because you can live in one side and rent the other and it will pay your mortgage. Like, that's awesome. That's amazing. It's hard to find land here locally where you can put a duplex or a triplex or quadplex on the property. And so if you found something that's already been approved with the city, that might be a gold mine. And just do your due diligence, make sure that there's nothing wrong with the soil, like the geotech and stuff like that, because maybe they didn't go forward with it because they have to put piers or the excavation is way more than they had planned. So definitely do your due diligence.
Yeah, I would highly recommend that. It was really helpful. Since we don't have any more questions, we'll probably just do a half a session since we've been out of the country for so long.
We almost didn't know if we were going to get to come home.
Yeah.
And so we just barely got home today.
Yeah.
So here we are.
And there was not much of an issue with the cartels down there in Mexico. We were in the very southern part, but pray for that country that it can come to grips with what's going on in that country, that it can overcome this hiccup and the real problem they've had in their country. So we don't need that to happen. So, but we're going to end that there. We'll do a half session today. We'll be back here again next week from 5 to 6 p.m. If we have more people on, that'd be great. But we're always here for you. Leave a question at howtobuildyourownhome.com. Just go contact the instructor. You can leave your question like this, and then I can respond to that question later, and you can come and watch the live chat later if you can't be here at the right time. We know hundreds of people watch our live chats later on during the course of the week. So take that opportunity and message us and reach out to us, and we'd be glad to help you guys out. So
yeah, we love to help.
Okay. With that in mind, we'll see you guys next week, and have a good session today. We'll guys see you next time.